Hey everyone, it's Brian with GreyWolf Towers again. So today's video is going to be a little unusual, and this is like my fourth or fifth attempt at getting this down, so hopefully this time it works correctly. With this instance, what we've done is we've done a video capture of the install process itself, and next we're going to do a voiceover to it using Streamlabs OBS, and that way we can do a capture of me telling you what each step is along the way. Now, like I said, this is my third or fourth attempt, so bear with me as we go through it. So now, as you can see on the screen behind me is the Click BIOS, which is the MSI BIOS screen for boot selection. Now in this instance is the F11 key. In your case, it may be the F12, the escape, the delete, the F2, the F9, the F10, or the F11 like in my instance. It does vary from manufacturer to manufacturer, but the typical standard is F12. Also, in a lot of cases, if you do F2 or delete and enter into the actual BIOS, you can then usually select it from there if it's one of the newer UEFI BIOSes. Now in this case, we've gone ahead and already hit the F11 key to get to the boot menu. We are using this guy here, which is a Windows 10 USB installer that I converted to Windows 11. If you want a video on that, then I can tell you how to do that in another video. It's a very simple process, and I can do that for you all if you are interested. If you are, make sure you leave a comment down below in the comments section asking for that video. So now, back to this one. So once you have selected the F11 or whatever key is needed in yours to get to the boot menu screen, we then go through here. Now I did give some of these screens a little more time than others, so bear with me as we go through. In this case, it has booted to the boot menu. We have the boot drive in there, the USB. We're selecting the correct USB device. Now, for whatever reason, all of my Windows 10 installs always do, well, I shouldn't say always, but 99% of the time do this, whether it's an Aorus, an MSI, a Lenovo, an HP, a Dell. It almost always does this exact same thing where it just puts lines across the screen of whatever the logo was. It distorts it for some reason. And so this part of the process is pretty common in my experience. I have had a couple, 2 or 3 installs that went where it didn't do this, but the majority of them, it does this. And then there it goes, showing part of the screen correctly, and as you can tell, the delete goes into BIOS, and the F11 key takes you into the boot menu where we just were. Now this is it booting off of the USB device. And it generally does take a minute or two, so don't be surprised. Now it's finally loaded the USB device for the installation files. Now this one, what we're going to do is we're going to select next because we have everything set up, but you may need to change some of those depending on where you're from. And then we're going to go to the install now option, which is to install. You can also use these devices to repair devices sometimes. In this case, we're doing a fresh install. Now this system has already had a install of Windows 10 and Windows 11 in the past, so it already has a key registered to the motherboard, and that's why we're going to make the selection that we have, because I don't know the key offhand. Otherwise, enter in your key here, and that way you can get your key manually entered, and then hit I don't have a key if you've already upgraded in the past. Now we know that it was running Windows 11 Pro, so we're going to select that and install. If you had Windows 11 Home installed, then you want to install that instead. Now this part of the process is the Home and Pro and things like that of 11. Now if you have installed 10, you want to do an update or an upgrade to 11 before doing the fresh install. Once you've upgraded, then you come in and do the 11 install like I'm doing here, and it will give you the best of everything, like a fresh install, and it'll give you the 11 install where, like I said, this had 10 on it before. I upgraded it to 11 using the USB inside Windows. Now I've rebooted and I'm installing 11 fresh so that you can see the installation process. Now for any Windows installation, since at least 10 if not earlier, you have to select I accept the license terms and then go on. And then here, as you can see, you have the two options of upgrade the install of Windows already and keep the file settings and applications, which in my experience rarely succeeds correctly. You often lose files or data anyway. So the best thing to do is to actually go into Windows that you already have installed, back up all of your files, all of your data, do an upgrade inside Windows. You can use this same flash drive for that. Once it has upgraded, you will then be digitally licensed for the Windows 11 key. So then the next step is that you would then restart and do the F10, 12, 11, whatever, to get into this screen so that you can go through this process and do a fresh install. And so that's what we're doing here, is we're going to go ahead to the custom install Windows. Now, this part of the process, we're deleting all of the partitions on our C drive that already has Windows on it. Like I said, it was an upgrade from Windows 10 to 11. It was a fresh install of 10 that I upgraded to 11 just to check out, make sure it did both of these functions. And then now we're just deleting those partitions because we don't want them. And then we're going to select the drive, okay? And then when you've selected the drive, you then hit New. Once you hit New, it gives you the option of the size. If you want the maximum amount of space, then you just leave it set the way that it is and then follow the prompts. We're going to leave it for the maximum size. We're going to hit New, and then we're going to go on here. It does all the partitions that are needed, and then it puts it onto the main partition size. We're going to click Next, and this here is copying all the files and then doing the installation. Although it just says getting files ready for installation, it is actually doing the installation during this process. And this part of the process generally takes between 5 and 15 minutes on newer, more modern systems. This is an i5 6500 CPU with 8 gigs of RAM. And so it will run it relatively fast for an installation, whereas in the past some installs have taken 30 to 45 minutes. In this case, I believe it takes around 15-ish minutes for this install. So so now at this step we're almost to the end of the installation. This part of the process generally only takes another minute or two. The SSD is allowing it to go very fast on the installation. If you have an NVMe drive or something like that, it may even go faster. Now it's just going to go through the cleanup stages of the install and then the finishing up. Now on the finishing up part, it just has this little bit here. We're going to click on the restart now. However, you can wait the 10 seconds, like step away or whatnot, and wait the 10 seconds out and it'll restart automatically. You do, however, at this stage want to remove the USB drive so that it is no longer in the PC that's getting the install. Okay? And that way, when it finishes this step, it'll reboot, which is why the black screen's there. And then it will come back up in a second here. There we go. And this is it starting up with the install already in place. If you leave the flash drive in, it may boot into the installer again rather than into your C drive. So you want to make sure that you remove the drive before it reboots. Now up to this point, we're only in about 6 to 8 minutes of time spent to do this on an SSD on an i5 6500. So anything more modern than a 6th gen system should be as fast or faster than this. Right now the video playing in the background is at just under 8 minutes right this second. Hit 8 minutes. And that's to get to the initial boot screen for Windows loading the first time. So that's pretty decent. All of this time that's spent right now on this section of the screen for the initial boot up is very common for a fresh install because it's finding all the files, making sure all the files are there, checking everything, making sure it's all good, and then it's going to do the little thing across the screen telling you about how it's checking for all the files, making sure they're in place and everything. And it generally does take a good 2 to 5 minutes for this part of the boot up. But later boot ups will be much faster. once it's fully installed and been run the first time and logged into the first time and everything, you get those faster speeds that you're used to at like the 15 to 30 seconds, 45 seconds, things like that. This part of the process is generally a minute or two, if not 3 to 5 sometimes. And again, it's just doing its cycles. It's all normal to see this kind of stuff. There we go. The just a moment screen means that it is actually into Windows 10, in this case Windows 11, sorry, and it is doing the install. Same process exists for Windows 10. It has not changed except for the screens. You will see the screen here. Very cool screen. I like the logo. Then we get into the actual setup part. Now this is fully installed at this point. Now we're going through the setup phase, and this is to get into Windows for the first time. And so at this stage, we're in the United States, so everything we pick is going to be for the USA. So we're going to click yes, and then we're going to click yes again because we're in the US, but you can select whatever country you're from. And then we're going to skip this one because we don't need an additional keyboard or layout. Now, here is where we get to the internet. My suggestion is not a requirement, but you can either choose to connect it at this point. In this case, it's a desktop, so it'd be an Ethernet cable to it or a USB adapter, or if you have an installed wireless connection, you can use that as well. If it's a laptop, then it would show the wireless connections in the area, not just Ethernet. My suggestion is to do the I don't have internet option and not connect to the internet on the initial install. Okay. Now the reason for this is the setup process allows you to set up an offline account first if you're not connected. That will give you some benefits, but I tend to sell or resell computers, and so I like the offline accounts, and that way I can put owner in it and I don't have to put a password in it, and that way the person that buys it can set it up the way they want, and it's already got everything set up as far as getting it running. So we click on the I don't have internet, and then we go to continue with setup, but you can still connect at this stage if you want to do it with a Microsoft account. And then in here I'm just going to type in owner, and the reason for that is, like I said, I tend to resell a lot of my systems, and so this one is going to be resold and I don't plan on keeping it, so that's going to be owner for the person to adjust, and then it's going to be the password is blank on this one. Now if you've installed Windows 10, you've seen a similar screen. Theirs is blue with it set this way instead of this way, and the main difference is there's one option less, and I haven't looked to see what that option is, but there is one option less on this one because there's a total of 7 on Windows 10 installs and there's only 6 on this install. But these are the privacy settings. You want to turn these off if you want to be, kept private and not have them, tailoring your experience to what they see you doing. This will help to keep things as minimum as possible on the privacy invasion. And then the next screen is the hi, welcome to Windows, getting everything ready type thing. And so this part of the process does usually take another 2 to 5 minutes. In Windows 11, as you can tell, there is that blue background, like a spotlight almost on top of the black, and that is different on Windows 10, at least in all of the installations that I've done. It has always been either blue or black, and it has been a solid color the entire thing. This kind of is a little bit fancier in my opinion, which I like. I personally prefer the Windows 11 installer over the Windows 10. It just looks a lot crisper, and I like the way they made it look. But that's personal opinion. Take it or leave it. Alright, so now at this step, Windows has loaded into the desktop for the first time. And so we now have Windows 11 running, and it is fully operational as far as what's able to be run currently. Now at this step, I generally will select to install the internet. Whether it's a laptop or a desktop that has Wi-Fi, I'll activate that. If it's a desktop without Wi-Fi like this one here that's being installed on, then I will go ahead and connect the Ethernet cable. And so we should see that in a moment here. So now It does show that it's offline. I always get rid of OneDrive when I'm setting things up and everything, because I really find it just a resource hog. So I go in, and in this case I had to do it twice to get there, but I close OneDrive and then go into settings, and we go down to update and security. And if you go to activation, you can see that it's Windows 11 Pro. It's unable to reach the activation servers because it's offline still. If you go to the updates, you can actually go down and you can go to OS build info. So we've got Windows 11 Pro on the developer model. We've got the 8 gigabytes of RAM here that's showing as installed. And then we've got the Core i5-6500 installed. And so it shows all of that. And then, yeah, there we go. So it's identifying now. It goes connected. All right. So now at this step we have internet, we have a connection, we have it installed, it is fully operational. And so I always update the antivirus, the Defender application built in, and then I run that security check to make sure everything is done. But that is the installation process of Windows 11. If you would like to see a video that includes what I do on a fresh install, as far as what I install for the core to be able to run things and everything, then let me know. And that's going to be things along the lines of C++ libraries, browsers that I like to use instead of Edge, anything additional like Java and things like that that I install. And I can do a quick like 10-15 minute video on that if you would like me to do that. Just comment down below in the comment section. So with that, we're going to go ahead and end this video. If you liked this video, found it useful in any way, shape, or form, make sure you hit the like button down below. If you have any questions about myself, the products, or the channel, make sure you leave those in the comment section down below as well. And as always, if you want to, you can reach me at Towers Grey on Twitter as well as on YouTube here. But with that aside, I hope that you all enjoyed this video. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button. It should be on this side of the screen most of the time. So I do hope that you enjoyed yourself and found this useful, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye for now.